Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to do a review of the latest episode of Star Wars Andor. It was called No Way Out. And as it begins, we see poor Olaf's body. Olaf that died in the last episode. His body gets paraded past the men for some reason. And I have to think that was intentional. I don't know. Because they don't want to, the thing is, they don't want to have the prisoners have hope, because that makes them think they can escape. It's a dual-edged sword there. Why they paraded the body in front of them is kind of weird, especially considering they killed a bunch of guys to keep the rest of the prisoners from finding out that there is no hope. So why would they parade the body? It didn't make any sense. Anyway, in the very next scene, we have a conversation between Cassini and Kino, where Cassini is trying to persuade Kino that now is the time to escape. They can't wait any longer than the start of the next shift to try to get out, because their best option is when a new man comes onto the floor, which they know is going to happen at the start of the next shift. And at first, Kino really doesn't like the idea. And I mean, you can just tell that he really isn't at that point open to just launching an escape without any real preparation. You can tell that he's just not on board, and his whole attitude was just... But he does realize that Cassini's right, and he urges the men to fight come the morning. The white suits, meanwhile, the Imperials, move on a plan to suss out some rebels. Mon Mothma meets with the lender that was discussed in the previous episode to explore what she called alternative funding options for their foundation, which is kind of interesting, because of course she's talking about funding a rebel operation, but that's not how she phrases it, right? And it turns out that this lender guy, who she knew was a jerk before the meeting, wants his son to be in an arranged marriage with Mon's now 13-year-old daughter in return for his services, and she rejects it outright, doesn't even think about it, it's just yeah, see ya, there's the door. So, and I don't blame her. So we don't know now what she's going to do for funding. We also see that Luthen is asked to meet with a contact. His assistant there brings him word that a signal has been given by his informant that he wants a meeting. Back in the prison, we see Cassian break that pipe that he was hacking at in the last episode in the bathroom, which allows him to not only take a piece of the pipe to use as a weapon, but also to flood the floor of, the facility that they're on, the whole floor. Now, I wasn't sure why an alarm didn't go off right away. I guess it eventually did, but it seems like it would have gone off sooner than it did. I don't know. The leak wasn't detected as soon as I thought it would have been. But anyway, that having happened, a couple of the men start a fight between them as a distraction, as the new man is being brought down to the floor. And then Cassini takes out the elevator with his little pipe thing, and all hell breaks loose. The men start a huge, riot and fight against the couple of guards that are there so that they can get out. When the guards spark the floor, the water from the bathroom causes the system to short out, and the men are able to walk on the floor without getting shocked, allowing them to take control of the whole room and grab a bunch of guns, which they proceed to use to free the next floor. So a couple guys did get zapped in the process, but because most of the men were on the table, they didn't get zapped, and the zap itself shorted out the floor. So they were able to then get off the tables and take over the floor. Now, as this is happening, I'm trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do once they get out, seeing as the prison is in the middle of the ocean. I mean, obviously, they would have to try to swim to shore, make it to shore somehow. But that's a serious, long shot, depending on how far away they are from the shore. I mean, there's only so far a person can swim before they, their endurance wears out, and then they're going to drown or, hopefully float, but more likely drown. And the other thing is there were other prisons surrounding the one prison. So what made them think that those prisons wouldn't launch ships or that the prison they were, anyway, okay, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The next thing that happens is they take over the whole facility, and Kino speaks to the men, and he's reluctant to speak to them, which is interesting because he's such a commanding presence on the floor with the men, But in this situation, he feels out of his depth and doesn't know what to say. But Cassian says, it has to be you. You have to talk to them. He says, come on, come on. You do this every day. So with Cassian's encouragement, he does speak on the PA, and he rallies the men to run, to make a break for it, saying how, they way outnumber the guards, and how as a result, they have the power.
Apes together.
He also uses Cassini's own words in the speech, with a nod to Cassini, about preferring to die fighting versus comply. And they make it to the water. Everybody makes it to the water, where Kilo reveals he can't swim, which is interesting. Then we get back to Luthen, and it turns out that his contact is one of the white suits we've been seeing, whose name is Lonnie. And he warns Luthen about Dedra, and that the planned raid on a power station is compromised, that they know about it. But Luthen knows he can't call it off to save his own people, because if he does, he'll expose the fact that he somehow knew it was compromised, and therefore that he has a mole, and he can't do that. So he's going to proceed with it anyway, which is very, which is chilling, knowing that it's a doomed mission. He has to proceed with it anyway, and that his men are going to die. The contact, it turns out, wants out. He wants to quit the Empire and quit his work as a spy, but Luthen says he won't allow it. In what, again, was a very powerful scene. He explains to him that, these men are going to die to protect the fact that you're my source, and I'll be damned if you're going to quit on us. So no, you can't quit. And the guy kind of questions Luthen's sacrifice, and Luthen gives a very poignant accounting of the things that he's sacrificed: his sanity, his relative sanity, his calm, his peace in life. And it was just very, very good scene. We then see that Cassian and one other guy made it to shore, as the Empire seems to be searching the water for others in the background. They had some ships in the air with spotlights and all that. But what we don't know is if Cassian and this other guy are the only guys that made it. There were 5,000 people in the prison, and we only see these two make it to shore. So is it that the rest of them drowned, or did they just all get separated and a bunch more made it to shore, but not in the same spot? We don't know. And I wonder if we're going to find out. I'd be interested to know the answer to that. But yeah, another great episode. I thought the prison break kind of went a little too easily, but I'm fine with that. It was very actiony, and Andy Serkis did a great job in this part. I hope we're not done with that character. I hope we continue to see that character, but he was just really good in the part, as he is in everything. And the roller coaster that he goes on in this one episode is just crazy. Mr. Skarsgård is excellent as always as well. The scene between him and the contact was just fantastic. And, again, we see that the rebels have yet more contacts and more allies right within the Empire, which is cool. It means you never know when someone's going to be a turncoat and take the side of the rebels, which is interesting to me because, again, I'm not convinced that Dedra is going to stay with the Empire, although I might be wrong about that. I just had a weird feeling in one of the earlier episodes that she could turn on the Empire just because of how she's treated, within the ranks, and that she might turn on them. I don't know. I still think she's Cassian's sister, though. So that's really it. Like I said, another great episode. There are only a couple left now. So, I can't wait to see how this season ends. I will, of course, be back to review the next episode. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.